to strap in and get ready. The leaders in NRL Supercoach are incoming, bringing you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and climb up the rankings. You're now listening to the Insight NRL Show with your hosts, Brain, Mattrix, and Whisperer.
Yes, g'day guys. We are back for our third positional podcast where we're diving into and tiering the top 20 2RFs for this episode. Josh, we were halfway through a conversation. I cut it off to start the episode purely because there's a bit of a delay. So when you click the button, it's it cut you off mid-sentence. Sorry about that.
No, he's just fucking off you. He told me.
Yeah, I just go stuff myself. I was trying to fucking get a good. I shouldn't swear. We'll lose money for this ad. I was trying to get a good, structure to this podcast happening, bring some experience. So, hey boys, what direction you gonna go? And you just want to get right into it, which I don't blame you at 10:02 on a Tuesday night. So let's get this over and done with.
Easy for Mattrix at 9 p.m, isn't it, in Queensland? So, Matty, how you going, mate? How you feeling about your 2RFs this year? Because there's a lot of value floating around. Are you spending up?
I would say mid, much like last year for me. And I don't hate it. I think that there's a few better mid prospects this year than there is last year. We had a few failed guys, and of course, we don't know that they failed until the end of the year. So I do like a punt there at some mid-priced maniacs. I think shout out to Rob in the from the AFL show, but feeling good. Had a game of basketball, got the kid to bed, come through, do a couple podcasts. Not all heroes wear capes. Some wear Mattrix crown caps.
Yes, and Memphis Grizzlies shirts. Shout out to those guys. Guys, let's rip into things. But before we do, the show is brought to you by Ryan from Astute Newstead. If you want to go and get yourself into the home loan market, Ryan will cover all of your residential home loan needs. You'll get those rates down, and it's great to see that the RBA is dropping the rates. So hopefully they can continue. Hit up Ryan from Astute Newstead for a no-obligation, cost-free inquiry to go and get yourself into the home loan market or save some cash. Now, guys, we're obviously covering the 5 tiers again, as we always do. We'll bring them up on the screen for everybody watching on YouTube. But we've got our set and forgets. We've got our potential keepers, what it says on the tin, our value picks, and I probably should play the little soundbite for this one.
Brother, what's that?
For anybody we're not overly keen on. So we've got the top 20 most owned already loaded up, ready to chat about. And there's plenty to talk about in 2RF. We're going to be also bringing one to the table each, boys. But I guess the first one to talk about is the big red Corey Horsburgh. 43.1% owned at the moment. Ricky Stewart said he wouldn't be surprised if he was going to play Origin, Josh. Does that tell us, can we be a bit more confident about Ricky Stewart's forward rotation with that?
Ricky Stewart wouldn't be surprised if he's playing Origin. I still wouldn't be surprised if Ricky Stewart just doesn't name him. So it's a bit of both ways. Realistically, no. Look, he's in my team. Has been basically since the app opened. One of the guys that you know how desperate we get. Finals footy comes around as Tigers fans. We have no interest in watching it, so we just start looking at Supercoach players for the next season. And Corey Horsburgh was a guy that we floated up early, and he's a guy that's been in pretty much all 3 of our teams all preseason, and won't be moving barring anything weird on TLT. I am concerned that he hasn't played a trial minute, but
yeah. That was probably where I was leading that next conversation, Mattrix. Like, we haven't seen him yet. We've seen nothing. And obviously the Raiders are now gone. They're not going to play a trial this weekend. They're on to Vegas early. So we basically have to trust the fact that the role is going to be there in Vegas come round 1 for TLT.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think for 355k, I'm willing to take that punt on Horse. For me, he's a potential keeper.
It's either that or it's value pick. I think it's very obvious which two categories you could fit into.
He's bottom of potential keeper or top of
value.
I think his value is at front row forward, and I would be. Yeah, thanks, man. Means a lot. No, I really think that we could just have him as your front row forward 3, 4 end of the year. Play him in a pinch. See him tick over 500k, and yeah, Bob's your uncle, which is keeper for me. Maybe not at second row forward. Take what you will from that, but yeah, I think he is potential keeper.
I'm probably leaning towards value pick purely because people are using him as that mid 300s front row forward too. Is there a guarantee that he goes back to averaging 60? No, of course there isn't. Not with everything that's gone on the last year, 18 months. I just feel like saying he's a potential keeper, and don't you? One of my hot takes was that he averaged 60 and gets back to, nearly his best football. So I'm as big on Corey Horsburgh as anybody, but I think I would lean towards saying that the reason we're picking him is because he is potentially 200K underpriced. Not if Corey Horsburgh is a 500K, 550K, would you pick him?
No.
Yeah.
So he's a value pick.
I think he could. I'll put him at value pick, but I think he could be a potential keeper because he just stays until round 27 because we have other issues. I'll put it this way: if he plays Origin, I'll make it as simple as this. If he plays Origin, value pick. If he doesn't play Origin, potential keeper.
Cool. So it doesn't really help us, but I'm going value pick. So that's I get control of the screen.
I'll put value pick as well.
All right.
But I guess what I'm saying is if he doesn't miss any part of that middle part of the season, there's a world where we have too many fires to put out that Horse just stays the whole season.
Yeah. Fair call. Yep, definitely.
Tino.
Sam Hughes. Yeah, absolutely. 2024 hero, Sam Hughes. Tino is up next. He is the second most owned 2RF at only 32%. So there's a bit of a wide spread of ownership across 2RF at the moment. Clearly, you've got 6 positions to pick there. So there is a bit of a spread in comparison to the other positions that only have 2. But what do we think about Tino, boys? Because, for me, obviously missing round 1, that's one consideration. He probably might slide in drafts due to the fact that he might miss round 1. But again, we're talking classic. Like, is there a risk, Mattrix, that he takes a little bit of time to find his minutes back again?
Yeah, and that's my concern now. He's been in my team because I was like, well, 530K Tino. He hasn't been that price since 2021. But yeah, there is a chance that he rolls back in. We haven't seen him play any trials footy. We saw him named on the bench this week. And yeah, I am worried they're going to ease him into it. And if he's a gun, as everybody has kept telling me when I've said he's in my side, you can just add him in round 4 and not that round 3 when you're trying to get everyone. I hate banking trades, but just said off air, like, imagine if you got a 450K Tino if he's playing 30 minutes a night.
I think I'm more leaning towards the fact he'd start slow than he's going to start running out of the blocks. If I had to choose one way or the other, one extreme or the other, I think there's more of a chance of him starting slow. Josh, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, we recorded that Front Row Forward podcast 4 days ago, and he was potential keeper then. Nothing's changed in 4 days for me. So
for sure.
Yeah,
I completely agree with the fact that that's where he is. I think he's potential keeper for sure. Let's move on. Third most owned. A bit of a shake-up, seeing that this man's been named on the bench for the Wooden Spooners. Jack Bird, 29% owned. The dual position centre wing 2RF is obviously the value there if you're picking a guy that had that versatility, but 379K. There's a lot of those mid-range value picks we've been talking about. For me, he's probably still value, but the problem becomes how much can we trust the role? Because no one really knows what the role looks like yet. We haven't seen it through preseason, Josh, at all.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at we have a slot there just above Corey Horsburgh's head and just below Tino's torso. I am pretty firmly in what it says on the tin.
Okay, Matty, what do you reckon?
I think he's a value pick if named at 13. My concern was we just did our TLT podcast and he wasn't named in the 13. He was named off the bench, which hurts. I think if he's... Look, for all intents and purposes, I think he is a value pick at 379K. I am going to assume that he's going to be named at lock. But if not, I'm going to pivot pretty quickly.
How much, though? How much of a value pick is he? Because if he averages 50, it's like, okay, cool. Like, yeah,
Still 10 points.
Yeah, but like 10 points at 370 is not the same as 10 points at, 450, 500.
What's he priced at? 39?
He's probably priced like a 39. So for him to average 50 is 11 points. I think it's fine. Like, if you guys want to put him at value, go for it. I'm not going to, kick up a stink. But like, what if he doesn't get the role?
If he doesn't get the role, he's a brother for me. Like, I just don't like picking bench utilities because essentially that's what he is.
He averages 45 points.
Yeah, and for me, it's that would be if he averaged 45 points, that's pretty close to what it says on the tin. That's not enough points. That's not a 6-point uptick. I'm not calling that value for me. So if all we can go off right now is the information that we have, and he has been named on the bench, Fanua Bole has been named in the prop rotation. Who was named at 13? Alex Twal. So fuck. All we can go off is that. And at the moment, I think he's probably going to be what it says on the tin.
If he does do my hypothetical and play 60 off the bench, then yeah, chuck him at value pick, chuck him at the top of value pick. Absolutely, but it's like I don't want to be playing speculation games.
Yep. He averaged 78 when he played lock over 60 minutes in the last 3 seasons.
He also averaged like 76 minutes a game in that. Like that's a good stat. Don't get me wrong; it's a good clickbait stat. Love a good clickbait stat. It's like putting Latrell Mitchell in the thumbnail. It's always good for a bump in views.
Turbo's good too.
It's a very misleading stat. It's he was averaging 70, 76, 77 minutes a game. So it's like
yeah. All right, let's move on. Connor Watson, we spoke about a fair bit in the Hooker podcast. If you watch that one, go back and check that out. I don't really want to spend too much time on Connor Watson here in the 2RF, but we're using him as a bit of insurance, I guess, Matty, to, if our double cheapy hooker potentially doesn't pan out or we have to bail on one of them, it's much easier to go Connor Watson up to hooker and get one of these million fucking mid-range / cheapy options rather than having to find, I guess, another way to get a decent hooker in. So you're picking Connor Watson as a value pick at this time? Or you keep picking him as a potential keeper in 2RF? How are you playing it?
I think he's a potential keeper because you can play him at hooker.
I agree, Josh.
Yep, chuck him in there. I think these guys that we spoke about in previous episodes, we'll try and gloss over them pretty quickly. Let's just gloss over this. Just brother, like what are we doing? I love Tom Sangster. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to chat on the Supercoach podcast. Got a good uptick in followers. Love that. Tommy, I can't get around this Josh Schuster propaganda. Brother, I'm not listening to either of you two's opinion. Let's move on to the next player.
Mine's the same.
No, let's. Oh, no, I'm not talking about Josh Schuster. That's terrible. Naf White is next. In the list, he's got the jewel. He's another one of these mid-range 360K guys. He sixth most owned. Only 22% though. So, like I said, there's a big wide spread there. What do we think about him? Is he a value pick to start the year?
Has anything changed for us? Because like we discussed him as a value pick. We were discussing him and Pete Memezelis on the front row forward pod because we had Memezelis as a brother and we had Naf as a value. Mm-hmm. If we're putting Jack Bird on what it says on the tin, are we putting Naf there as well?
Yeah.
Dual position guy named off the bench.
I think so.
I think so. Both coming from clubs with 80-minute hookers. So this is probably the first dual change that we've had where we had Naf in the value and now we're going to move him to what it says on the tin. I still think there's a little bit of value, probably similar to Jack Bird. I wouldn't be shocked if he's averaging 45 at season's end, but I can't start with him.
What it says on the tin is actually like brewed and canned around Australia. Alcohol can cause lifelong harm to your baby. So.
Yeah, good. Keep that in mind. The difference is when you're picking him at 2RF, there's way too many other options across 2RF, that are around his price that could be better. Whereas in front row forward, he is value because when you think about it, there really isn't any of those guys around his price that could do what he can do and, get 5 to 6 points of value. But it all depends on the role, and I think he does fit in Jack Bird's category. All right, we've got Dimitri Valmaga next. What do we think of him? Because obviously there's, he's dirt cheap. And he has looked quite good in the 2 trials that he's played so far. For me, he's passed the eye test. He's in my team. Josh, you first, mate. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm starting with him or Laban, depending on whoever gets the start on the edge. It looks like Ford maybe in that forward rotation. So, it's pretty clear, obvious value pick. 232K guy. Even if he sucks, he probably still averages 35, 36, and that's cool. It's less investment that we're putting on Bird for the same upside. So, just on the savings, I'd chuck him in value pick.
Matty, yeah,
I think he's got upside too. He looked really good in what I've seen. That's enough if he's named value pick. He's not going to lose money at 230K.
No, spot on. Isaiah Papali'i,
we say that we had Pwas Famasuli lose money at like 220.
Shout out to Joe Chan. Isaiah Papali'i's up next, boys. He's 585K, so he's definitely not cheap. We're spending up to get Isaiah Papali'i. There's no jewel there either, so it's the first time we've had a chat about him, but we have had many comments on Isaiah Papali'i throughout the last couple of weeks since we've seen a bit of footy from him. Matty, you first, mate. Thoughts on IPAP? I'm not overly keen on him this season, but in terms of a ranking and where you would put him, I think you're probably going to get exactly what it says on the tin, personally.
Yeah, I think so. If the role is perfect and the stars align, I think he is potential keeper, but it's just what it says on the tin at 580K at the moment.
What's the best
think
case? What's the
there's
best case
too
scenario?
many. Yeah.
65.
Best case scenario is he's 650k.
Yeah.
And you just hold him all year.
Yeah, we're not going to see.
I feel like people are talking about him like he's just going to be like 2024 Angus Crichton. I just don't see that. Like, I thought I was going to have a hot take by saying what it says on the tin, but it seems like we're all the same, which is good.
I mean, he had one season where he averaged 79 at Parramatta Eels on the right edge, and he rotated through like he played nearly 80 minutes in most games, even through the middle. Like, that was just a freakish season, but we've never seen that. We haven't seen that again from him. And unfortunately, he went to the Tigers, so hard to judge him too much on that.
Your words, not mine.
Sorry, Josh.
One of his good seasons was that 2021 as well.
I reckon it might have been 22.
Okay, because he had the last 2 seasons at the Tigers, so he had a really good season in 21. Yeah, a very very. Good
he was good in 21.
Yeah. So realistically, only one good season of data because is there anyone that follows me?
Trust 21.
I don't like to trust 21. What it says in the tin, and at probably the top end of what it says in the tin, he probably averages the most out of the guys that we put on here.
Yeah, I agree with that. Hamoli Olakau'atu is probably the first, what we would, aside from Tino, I guess, but the first premium price guy.
I just want to highlight the cameraman's had a shocker here. Whoever was paid to do the flash photography in this day has had a shocker because Hamoli is not just skin tone, he's just looking very dark.
And the one thing I've noticed, because I've done my fair share of downloading PNGs off Google, don't you worry, but Tino and all the Titans have a really faded profile photo too this year. It's like really dark and kind of faded, and same with Hamoli and the Manly Sea Eagles. Shout out to Schuster, who still has a Manly jersey on as well. Souths haven't fully committed to Schuster yet by the looks of things, so I don't know.
They're probably like, if we upload the photo, it's official. So let's try and hold on.
He turns up to photo
run
day.
for blackdown workers.
He's turned up to photo day. Everybody else has got their photo done, and they're like, "Hang on, Josh, you just hang over there in the corner, mate, and we'll let you know when you're ready." And he's there for like 5 hours. It's like,
but he'll start. He'll play 50 minutes. Can't get a photo, but he'll play 50 minutes.
Of course.
It's Mark Williams. So like, obviously, instead of NRL Medical, it's the photo. So they're trying to fail him on the photo. Peter Valides, it's not a real signing. We didn't take the photo.
Oh dear, and then Manly have to take him back. That's a shame. Hamoli Olakau'atu, boys. Look, at the moment, he's the first one that we're talking about that is like that really kind of top tier 600k plus guy. For me, I think start a potential keeper, end of set and forget. Like for me, like especially with the Manly draw, I think if Manly had a tougher draw, I wouldn't be looking at him anywhere near as much. But there is a lot of love there. He's just sub 20% owned too, Josh. So it's not like you go and consider him a very well-owned player.
So for me, we were talking about potential keeper at hooker and front row forward being probably the top 2 players, or maybe the top 1 for hooker, maybe like the top 3 or 4 for front row forward. I think because 2RF has 3 players, you can expand your criteria. So I would say anyone in the top 6, I would consider potential keeper. Hamoli finished at 7 last year. I know that we love him on this podcast, but I think he has a better season than Hudson Young, and I think he has a better season than Eli Katoa if Hughes is missing the start of the year. I would put Hamoli Olakau'atu at the bottom of potential keeper. Oh, sorry, I've set and forget.
Yeah, I think top of potential keeper, bottom of set and forget for me, but we just need to decide where he goes, Matty. So you might be the deciding factor.
It's potential keeper for me, just because he is a little inconsistent. Yeah. I do think that he's a little inconsistent, a little bit try dependent, and he keeps scoring tries and he keeps playing really well. And Daly Cherry Evans apparently has the fountain of youth there, but I do just think that it's potential keeper.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, I think I agree.
I'm not losing sleep over that one.
Miles Martin, we can't lose sleep about him either. We just chuck him in the brother. I don't think he plays. I mean, maybe he gets 20 minutes off the bench. Am I on the wrong page here? Do you guys agree?
Sure. Whatever.
Cool. Brother. Finafuiaki is next, 16% owned, 368k. Still hasn't got a commitment for a Dolphins photo on the internet either, which is disappointing. So I've thrown his Maori jersey on. But
wait, that Shams tweet.
Yep, that's it. So he's going to get traded any second now. What do you think? I mean, we've been a bit hot and cold on Finafuiaki. We talked about him on the week 3 trials preview, Matty. Where do you put him?
I think he's still a value pick, but maybe not. Like, if you're expecting a 550k second row forward, then you're not going to get that. Especially with the new team list that's come out. I would be favouring Max Platt's side if I was a half there. But yeah, look, I still think he's value. I can't call him brother. Look, it's probably closer to what's on the tin than brother. So I'm just sitting there at value pick.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of stuck in between as well, personally. It's Connolly Lemuelu on the bench, and then that's this now Max Plath being named on an edge, Gilbert at 13, just kind of throws everything out of whack for me on what I thought their 13 would look like. Josh, what do you reckon?
Yeah, it's one of the most interesting team lists that we definitely went through on the episode. For me, and we're doing this with we did with Jack Bird. I think we have to do it with Vinifuiaki. We have to go off the most relevant information that we have. And for me, that would put him at value pick. If there's no Connolly, then I would chuck Colo at value pick for me.
Fickle. I think it was either there or what it says on the tin. I don't know whether there's much else to talk about there. He's definitely not a brother. I think there's a chance that he could be okay this year if he gets the role, but we just don't know. Yeah. Charlie Geimer doesn't look like he's got the role, boys. We were very high on him in the lead up. Very disappointed now that we see him in the extended bench on a second trial week, Matty. He probably ends up being a brother for me, which is sad because I was hopeful that he was going to start this year.
Yeah, given the opportunity, I found it hard. I would love to think that some of these guys watch Supercoach, some of the coaches, but they don't. And I just think that there's too many mouths to feed at Parramatta. It's brother for me. I
think we just caveat this by we could morph Katogo's face onto Charlie Geimer's body. And it's like whoever starts, we're putting in value. But with Geimer specifically right now, for what we know, then probably brother unfortunately.
Yep, for sure. Kobe Hetherington, Josh, you're 338k. With obviously the words come out now that Carrigan's going to be at prop. We've seen that for the team lists. Hetherington gets the 13 jersey. Looked pretty good for me in week 2 of the trial when he got his first crack. I mean, can you fade a 330k starting lock for what we would consider to be probably a top 8 team this year?
Yeah, I don't know, because I want him, but if I'm getting him, it means I'm giving up on Alex Seyfarth, which feels very bad because of how much I was giving him the hot tour this preseason. So I don't know, he's value, but it's am I going to start with? And that's the big thing. And especially if
at least you'd only have 6 Tigers. It's got to be a small advantage going somebody that's 100k cheaper and to get off one of your Tigers.
I love how he talks about the Broncos like they're the 2006 Broncos, as if they didn't just nearly bottle it last year. No, in all seriousness, for me, it's positive for Kobe that Corey Pakes is not good and they're going to run Tyson Smoothie and or Billy Walters off the bench. So probably a better rotation for our boy Kobe Hetherington. I mean, not that you want to, but if Goss sucks mid-game, you can chuck Pat Carrigan at the edge there. Kobe could probably play on an edge if you needed to. So I think I'm talking myself into him over Alex Seyfarth, which feels blasphemous considering how much I was gassing him out this preseason. I can't believe I'm fading at the final hour.
I think he's a value pick. I think it's pretty easy to...
Oh, yeah, sorry. I went on a monologue. Yeah, value pick. Sorry, I should just summarize it in 15 seconds.
Matty, Aaron Clark is a guy that honestly hasn't really left my team throughout the preseason. As soon as Tohu Harris retired, I think it was not an easy decision because there's definitely question marks there. Statistically, he hasn't exactly lit it up in certain roles, but at lock, he definitely is much better pick than he is when he's coming off the bench with the same minutes. But we've talked about him in front row forward, so we can gloss over. Do we still feel the same about him being a value pick?
Yeah, I do think that this is the perfect kind of stepping stone. I don't think there's very much risk there at 390k. I think at the Warriors, 390k is his floor. So, yeah, if we ever see him touch 500k, we can stepping stone him to somebody else, and he can be one of my 4 trades at front row forward this year.
Is there a devil's advocate take, Josh? Because I know we're both pretty keen on Aaron Clark. There's got to be a devil's advocate to this, though.
Yeah, of course. He is a 1 ppm kind of guy. Let's not gloss over. He's no production beast. And if it is just a pure split with Dylan Walker, then it's just like what it says on the tin. But I don't know. But what it says, what it says on the tin.
I think I'm value still. So I think
Yeah, I'm
Business
value.
got you.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's fair.
In saying that, like the one thing that was in his favour was the fact that we saw a very, very small minute split between Walker being at 13 and Aaron Clark being in the prop rotation in the week 2 of the trials. That's what I needed to see to feel better about this. If it was just a straight 13 lock split between those two, I'd be like, nah, probably not keen.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think he can get 50 minutes if he gets an extra 10 minutes at prop. So Mitchy Barnett, another guy who does a little bit of rotation through to an edge, looks like he'll be starting at prop to start the year, which is where he didn't necessarily score amazing amount of points last year. His average went up to 78 when he was on an edge when Tohu was out last season. We talked about him at front row, Josh. I mean, we're looking at potential keepers still in this category for Mitch Barnett, or are we going to get what it says on the tin?
I'm probably changing now that like I'm watching him play prop more as the trials go on. I'm probably more at what it says on the tin, which is it's funny because like nothing's changed. It's just watching him play more game time. So I'm on what it says on the tin, but probably the top end. Probably the second behind IPAP.
I'd probably still back him more over IPAP. I think he's top of what it says on the tin and maybe bottom of potential keeper.
He's not Hamole or Tino.
No, agreed. Matty, what do you think on Mitch Barnett?
Yeah, and you're chasing a little bit of upside at second row forward. I'm okay with him being the very top of what it says on the tin because it sounds like that's what you guys are at. But if it was bottom of potential keeper here, you're probably right. The more minutes we see him play at front row forward, the less attacking upside we get. And because he had a huge, like he hit 100 once or twice last year as well. Which he's not going to get at prop. So, yeah, it's probably more what it says on the tin.
Yeah. I think we've agreed. Can we just move his AEO to set and forget and move on?
Is this going to be the most boring set and forget we have all preseason?
Yep.
This is missionary sex. This is...
It's okay.
Hang on. No, this is paying for a lady of the night. Yeah, I mean, you did it, but like, do you want to tell your friends about it? Yeah, cool. You picked AEO. It's not really anything to flex about. Like
you've got different friends to me.
You tell all your friends when you get a dub or to be fair.
During. Yeah, Matty tells him during it.
I'm on the phone to him.
Anyway, let's move on to Dylan Lucas. But yeah, Isaiah, I'm set and forget. Obviously, the best show.
For me, maybe I'm not the right person to ask about Dylan Lucas, so I might maybe try and palm this one off to you guys so there's not too much bias. But I genuinely think that Dylan, it depends on what position we're picking him in. We're talking 2RF.
Do you know he's dual?
Sorry?
Do you know he's dual? Do you know he has
value?
Really? Yeah. Where does his value
lies? His value lies at centre wing. Is that the same? Well, maybe we should get a shirt with that on it.
Value lies beneath the
dual.
For me, it's potential keeper.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to lead. I just wasn't sure whether I was being too biased because I'm being really high on him.
No,
Matty, can you talk me out of that?
I actually feel like he could nearly be set and forget in centre wing.
Do you think he's a top 7-8 centre wing though? That's my only question.
Yeah, but it's like consistency and like he might be top 4 from what you can afford. You can't just go buy Garrick, Asako, and all these guys.
No, but I think if we're looking at like set and forget, like we can't just be like, oh, this guy cost $600K and he's the 8th best center wing. Like I still think you need to look at it like holistically as like who is the best option. Like if you said to me right now, Josh, I need you to pick a top 4 center wing, I'm probably not picking Dylan Lucas with all due respect. However, in saying that, there is a lot of concern over some of these options. Val Holmes' new club, Zach Lomax's new position, Jacob Corraz with a bad Gary Jack, Dane Gagai another year older. Dylan Lucas. Yeah, Dylan Lucas finished as the center wing 16 last year, and that was averaging what 60? 63. Yeah, so like I don't see him finishing the season at like 700 plus K. But in saying that, I don't think I trade him out all season if he's fit, but that doesn't mean he's a set and forget.
Yeah, it's hard to.
Yeah, maybe.
It's tough, isn't it? Because you're kind of picking him because he couldn't put up that 65 to 70, and he's only priced at a 61 or 62. Are you happy with the 65 at 2RF? I am personally. I'd be pretty happy with that. So, yeah, I think he's the bottom end of potential keeper, top end of value pick, personally. So I think maybe we just sit him at the bottom of potential keeper. That's where we landed. Ethan
I just think
Roberts.
if you go tops, like different take to Josh, I think if like it's a top, like we're talking center wing now, but I think it's got to be top 7 center wing to be considered potential keeper because you're going to keep them, and that's how many spots you have. So
let's leave him at bottom end of potential keeper. There's question marks there, but he definitely could be a guy you don't trade out all season. Ethan Roberts, straight to brother we spoke about him in the front row forward rotation. I'm assuming he's just enough there that's sitting there as a placeholder for most people. So we got Kel Matualangi, Insight Fantasy Sports' very own Kel Matualangi. We'll just pop him up in set and forget, and we'll just move on, shall we?
Sure.
Actually not that bad with having him at set and forget, because I do think that he could potentially be a top 6, top 10 guy that's 400k.
Let's be serious.
Let's have a proper conversation. I think it's value. I think it's value pick. Yeah. We'll discuss the order as we get to the end of the show. But last one, Maxi Plath.
There's not a world where you don't think he's potential keeper with all this love, Braino.
I think I said that as a hot take, he would average 60 plus. Do I want a 60 plus guy as a keeper? Probably not. I probably want more than that, to be fair. I think he's going to be great. I think he's great. And the reason I'm picking him is because he is 400 and something K.
Yeah.
If he was 550K, would I be picking Kel Matualangi? No, I wouldn't. So that just tells me I'm picking him up because there's value to be had, not because he's a guy that I think I could hold all year. Cool. Max Plath, very quickly before we wrap this one up, we've got. We did put him in brother for the hookers. We got a little bit of hate for that, but how do we play it in 2RF with Max Plath? He's coming off he's named on an edge, Josh. Like that changes things based on the hooker ranking we gave him when he was coming off the bench.
He was like my hooker too. When we started doing our draft board, he was my hook too, and that was on the presumption that he played 13, which isn't the case. For me, this is pretty easy what it says on the tin for Maxi Plath, I think. I don't see any value, but I don't see any downside either. Good safe draft pick.
Matty, you reckon he's upgraded from brother to what it says on the tin?
Yeah, what it says on the tin. I think there's very little value. I mean, the price nearly makes it brother but right now let's go what it says on the tin. Because he's unproven at that 580k in this role. So
yeah, fair call. All right, boys, we've got the top 20 there on the board. We've got one set and forget and a ton of others. So, we don't have to worry about the set and forget as AEO. He stays at the top of the list. But we need to rank the rest of these guys. We'll go left, best to worst. We've got Tino, Connor Watson, Hamoli Olakawatu, Dylan Lucas as the potential keepers. My order personally would probably be, I reckon, maybe Tino first, Hamoli second, Connor Watson third, Lucas fourth.
No.
What's yours?
Amole first. Con Watt. Lucas Tino?
Okay. That's way different to mine. Matty, what do you reckon?
I've got Hamoli, Watson, Tino, Lucas.
Okay. So you guys have gone with Tino third, Hamoli. Yeah, so that's the order that we've pretty much settled on because Matty and I have both said Lucas last.
So I don't think there's much between it. I think it's like...
It's pretty close.
I think it's like 66, 60. Actually, I don't know. Honestly, I think it's like Halmole at like 66. And then like, mate, you could be
like 63, 62.
I honestly think you could put Dylan Lucas at 2 and shift everyone else down 1.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'm just trying to be very wary of...
I think it could be 66 for Hamole, like 63 for Lucas, like 61 for Watson, like 60 for Tino.
Yeah. Potentially.
I'll cop that.
Okay, so we got Lucas at 2. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Of course,
cool.
That's what I said.
What it says on the tin, Barnett, Papali'i, we're going to, I guess, decide out of those two who's number 1.
What do we think Barnett averages at prop, though?
I think his numbers were like, 59 or something like that at prop? Yeah, so not ideal.
60.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe if IPAP's playing 70, then I'd probably put IPAP at 1.
Yep.
Do we think he plays 70?
I honestly don't know whether he does.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I don't
you
think
got
he
Scott
plays 70,
Sorensen there.
so I've got Barnett.
I think Barnett 1, Papali'i 2, personally.
That's fine. And then we can put Plath at 3 and then Bird 4.
Naff
White
White
5.
at 5. Yeah, fair call. Value, boys. This is the one. This is the tough one because this is the question mark that everybody has.
If we're trying to take bias out of it, I think it's Kelmer 1, Horse 2.
I thought you were going to try and say that Kelmer wasn't anywhere near the top if we were trying to take bias out of it.
No, I mean, like, we all love Corey. Like, we've loved him since the start. But I think it's Kelmer 1, Corey 2, Aaron 3.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. I think this is the tricky part.
Kobe over Aaron?
Well, no, I think Kobe 4. I think Aaron 3, Kobe 4.
Kobe 4.
Okay.
And then you've got to decide who's last out of Vaimalga and Finafuiaki.
I think it's Dimitri if he's not starting.
Yeah,
cool.
I think Finna.
And who really gives a fuck about these 4? Schuster, Miles Martin, Charlie Geimer, Ethan Roberts. Who cares? Because they all are.
Miles Martin is at the top. Miles Martin at the top, Charlie at 2, and then whatever.
I'm just going to put Schuster
value
at the back
just
for the
forward.
Just take Schuster.
Yes, it does.
Right.
Boys, we've got 3 quick ones to bring to the table. Josh, kick us off, mate. Who are you bringing to the table outside the 20?
Alex Seyfarth. It has to be stats of him playing starting big minutes, unreal, pushing 60. I think, I don't know, in draft, I don't know how much influence I have or whatever, but like I think he's going to be underdrafted for what he's going to produce. I am worried that he just signed a contract extension. Not that I want to read too much into it, but I think he's one of the better value picks at that mid 400Ks that is just being slept on. I think people just look at the club that he plays for and just write him off, which is fair enough. We suck, but taking that away, his stats were good.
Yeah, fair call. Matty, who's yours?
Tom Gilbert. I think that he's just walked back into his preferred role. Sounds like he's won the spot over Plath. Look, at 51 in base power in his just base in his last full season. Like, yeah, there might be a few teething issues, but at 460K, I can be a little bit patient for Tom Gilbert. He's not very well owned. I was sort of hoping that you'd talk about him because I'm excited about Johnny Bateman at 520K, and I know you guys won't be, but yeah, look, it was pretty close between Tom Gilbert and Johnny Bateman for me. I actually don't own too many of the top 20 2RFs, to be honest. So
fair enough. Mine is Jacob Preston, 609K to start the year. Bulldogs draw looks fucking awesome. Averages about 60 or late 60s when he plays 80 minutes across his career so far, 75 in 80 minutes last year. Shout out to Josh for the graphic and the stat. 47 in base as well in 80 minutes last year. So, for me, I think he's being slept on. He's only 5.6% owned, Jacob Preston. But I honestly, if you asked me to put him as a part of this list, I would say he is at the top of potential keeper for me. I would rate him higher than Hamoli or Lukawatu personally.
That's so. It's like 80. I would say the same thing.
Yeah, and obviously the question mark is, does he play 80? Because there's been a lot of games in his career that he's played 60, 65, 70 and been spelled early. So, yeah, it's hard to say at this point in time, but I think if he does get 80, he's going to be a guy that we're all going to be scrambling for come round 3, 4, 5 when the Bulldogs go on a run. So that's us. 2RFs done. And ironically, we finished 2RFs way quicker than we did hookers and front row forwards, which are 2 useless positions to us, to completely honest. So hopefully guys, and let us know in the comments whether you agree, disagree, any of the players in this list that you think we've done hard by or maybe we've underrated. Let us know in the comments. We've still got halfback, 5'8", centre wing and fullback to come. So stay tuned over the next maybe 10 days before the season starts or before we get to Vegas. You'll be seeing those episodes coming out in the same format, in the tier format. Subscribe to the Patreon, get involved in all the chat there and ask us as many questions as you want there. You'll get your answers over there. But otherwise, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next time. Catch you then.
cheerio.